r/AskReddit with GreatValue Reddit. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. People of Reddit, what is the scariest dream that you had that you can still remember? A terribly realistic dream I had of my family, myself, and a family we know being sent to concentration camps. The logic in it was absolutely perfect. Everything had a why and a how, and there was absolutely nothing that was wonky. Therefore, my brain read it as reality whenever I tried to wake up. It wasn't over the top, just human cruelty taken to its chilling logical extreme. Nothing indicated that it was a dream until my mother woke me up. I was late in 8th grade, and even then I wasn't sure what was real and what wasn't for a few moments. The only good thing is that it ended with my mother and I alive. Everything else makes it easily the worst dream I ever had. I just started taking Chantix, a smoking cessation medication that is known for causing vivid dreams. I have had dreams the past 4 nights that were very interesting, but my scariest dream was just after my first son was born. I opened my eyes. My wife was curled up next to me. I remember she was topless, with the blanket pulled up to her collarbones, covering her breasts. The sun was just peeking above the horizon, and the light was hitting her just right. I kissed her on the cheek and went downstairs to make coffee. I put the coffee in the filter, added water to the coffee maker, and leaned back against the counter and I breathed in deeply. I let out a contented sigh, then stretched my arms up to the sky. Then, I heard an air raid siren. I looked out the window and I could see the sprawling military base in the early morning sunlight. Other on-base houses going on in neat little rows for as far as I could see. I could see the chain link fences surrounding the base. The air raid siren stopped and a booming voice said, "Attack imminent. Do not open your doors. Stay inside." Just then, my wife came down the stairs, holding our infant son in her arms. She sleepily asked me what the noise was. I couldn't answer. I was still looking out the window, and off in the distance I saw a huge crowd of people moving towards the fence. I just stood there with my mouth open as they got closer and closer. They made it to the fence, and some climbed over, others kept punching against the fence. I watched as 3 of them came upon a neighbor from up the street doing some early morning gardening. They surrounded my neighbor, and I remember watching them rip him apart, then start eating him. I turned to my wife and told her we needed to get to the garage and get in the car. She took our son to the garage, and grabbed shoes for me and her. As I opened the door to the garage, I could hear screams and pounding on the house and the garage door. I started the car, and just as I was about to ram through the garage door, the people smashed their way in. They were all over the car. They smashed the passenger window and took my son. Another grabbed my wife and bit into her neck, just above the collarbone. I looked up to see one of them bite into my son's belly. I woke up making a strange noise, gasping for air and trying to scream at the same time. I am not military and I have never lived on a base, but I sure as shit did in that dream. They were zombies. I've had numerous zombie dreams before that were terrifying, but they had always focused on me dying. This was the first time I had felt that sheer sense of panic for someone else's well-being in a dream. Thomas the Tank Engine pushing me down the stairs. Never will I forget that. TLDR. Our world was a simulation and it was ending. I was looking out the window of my childhood bedroom when all the planes and helicopters in the air just stopped for a split second, and then rushed forward as if to make up the time. But after that, they couldn't sustain flight. I saw planes losing altitude. I watched a helicopter come down on my street, but it disappeared as it crashed, leaving the passenger on the ground, apparently unharmed. This is where I panicked. I looked away, thinking I was hallucinating, thinking it would be back to normal, and I looked back. It wasn't. I turned on the TV, pulled out my laptop, found a headline on Reddit. Freak weather event causes all air traffic to crash. I was about to comment, to tell the world what I'd seen as I watched it happen. It wasn't weather. Then my husband, asleep on the couch, started stirring. I looked at him, then back at the window. The world outside the window had changed. I saw boats and ships flying through the air aimlessly. One seemed to be coming towards my house, but the neighborhood was gone. Behind the flying ships and all around, I saw blue. Not the sky. Just solid blue. I woke up my husband with my panic. I remember saying, "The Matrix is shutting down." I thought our world was ending. We clung together because it didn't seem like there was anything else to do. Woke up with my heart racing, a little afraid to look out the window. This was a few weeks ago. What was scariest about it was that I wasn't functioning on dream logic. Everything I did, every emotion I had, every way I reacted, was exactly how I would have behaved had this been really happening. It felt real. Many years ago, I had split with my husband. I remained living in our flat, which was on the ground floor. He had a habit of dropping round, making smarmy remarks, picking fights, asking for money. We had fought. I had kicked him out, but I hadn't changed the locks. Anyway, a blind toddler could have burgled that flat. My bedroom was at the back of the flat, and had doorways with no locks on either side which led through to the kitchen and further on into the living room. I was quite sick and bedbound for a couple of weeks when I had this dream. It was a horrible dream. I was being chased. I was running and running. I could feel my pursuer getting closer and closer. So terrifying. I screamed and woke myself. I was kind of woozy and made myself get up and walk through to the kitchen and make some tea. I definitely didn't want to fall back to sleep and dream the same dream again. I was feeling fragile and alone. The flat was dark. I was leaning with my hands on the kitchen counter waiting for the kettle to boil when I was grabbed from behind. It was my husband. He had wrapped one arm around me, pinning both my arms tightly against my body. "You fucking bitch," he said. Then he plunged a huge kitchen knife down and into my chest. Then I really fucking screamed at the top of my lungs. And there I was in my bed, scared stiff, upright in the dark, totally alone. I just had this last week and it still terrifies me. In the dream, my wife told me how sad she was dropping off our daughter at her new parents' house. We had agreed that we would give our daughter away once she turned 1 year old. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye or even remember making this agreement. That was the worst feeling. It wasn't outright scary, so I might disqualify myself here. But I remember years ago when my cell phone ended up falling off of my bed and tumbling underneath a pillow that was laying on the ground. The result was an alarm just loud enough for me to hear while I was in my dream, but not loud enough for me to actually wake up from the dream. And it was one of those incessant buzzer alarms that I ended up having to change. I was so traumatized by this. The result was me running around in my apartment in my dream, smashing things and trying to locate the noise to make it stop. In my dream, it felt like I was doing this for hours and hours, desperately trying to quiet the alarm, but not being able to. It was terrible. I'm happy this particular alarm sound is no longer used much anymore. It gets to me that much till this day. Mine would be this. Standing in my living room, looking out the window, and I see a nuclear bomb go off near the horizon. I lived with 2 of my sisters, so I started to run around the house, telling them what had happened. After a minute or so, we felt a blast wave go through us, and we thought the worst was over. Then another bomb went off, this time a little closer. The blast wave hit us sooner, and I remember my skin feeling like I had horrible sunburn. I thought to myself, this is probably what it feels like to be in a microwave. We lived on a cul-de-sac, and our neighbor and 2 of his sons were standing in the road. We walked up to them as another nuclear bomb went off within a few miles of us, and I looked at the neighbor and said, "When are they gonna stop?" He hauntingly responded, "When we're all dead." Then the blast wave hit us, and the dream was over. That dream still bothers me, and I dreamt it over a year ago. So vivid, and the pain I felt was unique. Very creepy. Watching the news was against the rules. Absolutely forbidden. Of course, my sisters never followed TV rules, and also sometimes hotel TVs have the news as the default. So sometimes I'd catch quick clips of newscasts. Or I'd listen to a segment when my dad got home from work, even though nobody was allowed in the room when he watched TV. I gradually became aware that there was an active serial killer committing murders out of state. That's the sort of thing my parents would find totally inappropriate for young children, but it fascinated me. My parents start fighting, more than usual. Mom gets angry if dad turns the TV on around me or my siblings. I'm frequently charged with guarding the door when they fight, so my little sisters can't eavesdrop and get upset. My mom trusts that I won't listen in, but sometimes my parents get loud and I can't help but overhear things. Dad's the serial killer. Mom knows. They have some kind of agreement for it, but I don't know what. Of course, I confront my mom about this the second we're alone. Mom tells me that she figured out what dad was doing shortly after she had me. But that was before DNA testing became commonplace, so if she went to the cops it'd be dad's word against hers. Dad seemed so normal and honest, nobody would believe her, and even if some of them did, his cousins are cops, if she went to the police, she'd end up divorced and have to move back in with her abusive dad who used to hit her when she was little. And my dad, seeming like a great, upstanding guy, would get partial custody because he'd absolutely fight for that. So she decided it was safer to stay with him so I wouldn't be alone with him. She did confront him and force him to agree to some rules though, to keep the family safe. Dad was only allowed to kill on business trips, only kill prostitutes, and always use a condom if he raped the prostitute first. Killing on business trips would make him harder to track, since sometimes he'd be in and out of a city in a day. It takes a while before law enforcement notices a hooker's gone missing, and even longer for them to care. The condom didn't need to be explained. But dad was starting to push the envelope. He killed somebody the previous summer, when we were on vacation in Italy. He said that because he worked remotely, it counted as a business trip. That's why he and mom were fighting so much. Mom makes me promise never to tell anybody what she just told me. Dad was the only source of income for the family. Things would get hard if he went to jail. If the police found out mom knew, the cops might not trust dad's family enough to let us live with them even though that's what our parents wanted. My siblings and I could end up in foster care. I could use the information to try and protect dad like mom did, by offering alibis. But I had to play dumb or I could go to jail, just like mom. Dad doesn't stop pushing the envelope. He starts killing people in our city, and even drives with me through the red light district. Mom gets more and more uptight. I do my best to play dumb, but it's harder and harder to lie to my siblings about what was happening. They're starting to get suspicious. Then he brought a girl home. I think he told us she was gonna be our babysitter, but I got a bad feeling. Especially when he decided to show the woman something in the basement. I ushered my siblings upstairs, because if we were upstairs I could say we were playing and didn't hear anything. I remember debating whether or not to call 911. I didn't want to help my dad kill anybody, but I didn't want to get in trouble for not ratting him out sooner. I didn't want to break up my family and be the reason my siblings got abused in foster care. And be punished for it, which I would be, if I didn't lie well enough to the police or my sister said something that made them suspicious. There was a commotion from the basement. My siblings ran downstairs and I chased after them shouting to go back upstairs so I could ask dad if everything was okay. Somehow I ended up holding my mother's butcher knife. Maybe I grabbed it for protection. I don't know. The girl had fought back and knocked my dad out. She escaped out of the basement. When she saw me with the butcher's knife, she stopped. I knew if I let her go, there was no hiding anything. My parents would go to jail. I might be able to lie my way out of it, claim I grabbed the knife because I thought the girl was gonna kill me and my siblings after she knocked out my father, but my siblings would end up in foster care. Or I could force the girl back in the basement. I didn't want to help commit murder. My little brother asked me what I was gonna do. That's when I woke up. When I was little I was having a normal dream of me being in my school just fucking around. All of a sudden my whole vision goes static and a dead polar bear's head appears saying nothing is real. Then I get teleported to my room with my door open and hearing loud footsteps coming towards me and I couldn't move but I woke up in time before I got jump scared. That dream made me have my first existential crisis. It's not exactly realistic, but it really stuck with me for a while. I was in space in the future, in a completely alien environment. I was some sort of astronaut, and as I was exploring I found some sort of witch or something, and she told me that she was stuck there and needed a specific item to leave. I agreed to get it for her, and she gave me specific directions along the line of there is a pocket dimension over there and you can only leave it when the light from the sun is directing into it. You have to go in and smash object. I went into the dimension. It looked like a small black hole, but 2D, and didn't see any object. I heard her cackling. I looked back and realized that the dimension was built so that the sun would never shine in it. I panicked, filled with a deep sorrow and existential dread. Then I woke up in a cold sweat. Did you like today's video? Like and subscribe for more Reddit content.